Commencing countdown.
3, 2, 1.
This is the Contracting Experience. Connecting government contracting professionals to the world around them through conversations with acquisition influencers, insights into evolving hot topics, and sharing lessons learned from the field.
Greetings, listeners. ConIT is the new contract writing system being rolled out across the Air Force. In this next episode of the Contracting Experience podcast, I sit down with Dan Parish, who is one of the lead subject matter experts on ConIT. Dan talks a little about his work experience and how he got involved with ConIT. He also discusses why the Air Force needs a new contract writing system, as well as the ConIT rollout schedule across the different Air Force locations, resources and training available, and future capabilities planned for ConIT. Enjoy hearing the latest details on ConIT Rollout. So today on the podcast, we have Mr. Dan Parish, who is the branch chief for Contracting Systems Branch in the Process Management Division of the Air Force Materiel Command Contracting Directorate. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the first question, you are going on 30 years of experience with the Air Force this December. Can you tell me about where you're from and how you got involved with the Air Force?
Sure. I'm a Midwesterner. I was born and raised in Illinois, around the central Illinois area. Went to Bradley University for my undergraduate and the University of Illinois for graduate school. Once I finished graduate school, I did like everyone else and started putting out resumes and applications and that kind of thing. And Air Force came back, Wright-Pat came back. They were, it was towards the tail end of President Reagan's big hiring spree there in the 1980s. And 30 years later, here I am. So.
Awesome. So looking at your work experiences, you've held some pretty niche positions. Can you tell the audience what your work background is and how that has led to your current position as the branch chief of the Air Force Materiel Command Contracting Systems Branch?
Yeah, niche is a good word. So I've been fortunate over these almost 30 years to work in, have a lot of varied experience, work a lot of interesting initiatives and projects. Came in as a contracting specialist in what used to be called the Wright-Pat Contracting Center. I spent several years there as both a buyer and did contract administration work in the operational contracting area. Then I moved from there I stayed in the building, but went to the Foreign Military Sales section where I supported AFSAC requirements. This is the Security Assistance Center requirements. Supported requirements for Saudi Arabia and Jordan. It was an interesting experience. Became a contracting officer while I was there. Next, I moved to the C-17 SPO as a contracting officer and worked in there for several years and saw a opportunity for a career broadening position over here in headquarters. So I was fortunate enough to get selected for that. Came over here to headquarters and began work as a business advisor in the old MSG organization in their Future Systems branch, which kind of first got me involved with information technology. Okay. Because they were beginning the development on something called, we call now the Contracting Business Intelligence Service. It's a kind of a business intelligence capability that's used across the Air Force. So I first got my experience there, rotated up and was asked to support an Air Force initiative called the Purchasing Supply Chain Management initiative that was it was a joint effort between AFMC PK, A4 here, and then the field logistics and contracting folks in the field. I was a team lead on a couple of teams, the strat planning team, as well as the job design team. One of those outcomes was the creation of a commodity council structure that you see now at the ALCs. From that, because we were supporting and very closely tied to A4, we stayed in the A4 organization. So I actually became part of A4 as a logistics management specialist, where I was the tech lead for a couple different teams down there, the depot maintenance group and the responsive sourcing group. Did that for a short period of time, and then was fortunate enough to get a position back up in PK in what was called the Contracting Systems Division. And from there, I kind of, have been there ever since. It's kind of gone from a division to a branch, and I eventually took over branch chief duties within that.
So as part of that, in your current position, you are one of the lead functional subject matter experts in the development of the new contract management system, CON-IT. So can you tell us what CON-IT is and what is your role in getting it implemented?
Yeah, CON-IT has been a long time coming. It is a critical part of SAF AQC's contracting modernization effort. We've been at this, like I said, for quite some time. It is a contract writing system that will replace the contract writing system currently in use with our operational contracting units across the Air Force, and that is a standard procurement system. Eventually, we will kind of broaden it from a pure contract writing system to both that and a contract management system. That's the idea. But the target right now is operational contracting and those requirements. And so we will be very shortly begin deploying that. If my role in all that is I am the AFMC rep to the Air Force Functional Requirements Board. Each MAJCOM has a rep that's a voting member. And so myself and the staff within PKQT have been assisting the AFMC sites in getting ready for that deployment. So we have a lot of interaction with the sites, helping them through getting their site deployment taskings, what they need to prepare for, giving input on training plans, having routine telecons with them, all with the goal of getting them ready to deploy. I am also one of the lead functionals for the development side. So we meet the U.S. Department of Agriculture has a development team, and they are the ones that are developing the system. Okay. So I meet quite often out at their location in Colorado, okay, with other functionals to help guide them, if you will, with their development on our functional requirements.
And then why does the Air Force need a new contract writing system?
There have been several factors kind of instrumental in getting us to this point. The first one was several years ago, OSD had a mandate to all the services to retire and get off the standard procurement system. So that was an initial driver to what we began as far as planning and what we could do and how we could conceptualize a new writing system and what we needed it to do. The others have been, we have currently in the Air Force 3 contract writing legacy systems. The standard procurement system Conwright, and the Automated Contract Preparation System, or ASIPS. These systems, at least in IT world, are very old. It's more expensive to maintain each system. Getting new capabilities into those systems quickly has been more of a challenge. So that's been a driver as well, that we've recognized that we have 3 writing systems out there. Hey, is there something we can do to get to one? Another driver has been from Congress and really OSD. They've been very focused on a data-driven environment, if you will. Today, it's all about data, being able to access it, being able to make sure it flows efficiently throughout all the business processes. And so with our legacy systems, that really didn't happen. We had data flowing, for instance, between the financial management community and the contracting community, and then to the payment side could be very clunky. And so one of the drivers from OSD's perspective to all of the services was, when you replace initially SPS, make sure you are keeping in mind that your business processes need to be able to talk to one another and be able to need to facilitate that data flow. And the last thing I would say is, from OSD's perspective, the last several years they have mandated several standards. So standardization is huge today, but particularly the standardization around data. And for buyers and our users of the system, they may see some changes, but mainly it's in the back end as you send the data through to our stakeholders. Right. It has to be in certain formats, has to be in that other systems can receive and act upon it. Right. So those, I would say, are the main drivers. You always have new security requirements that are getting more, certainly more robust. Mm-hmm. And so it does cause issues with all of those legacy systems out there trying to meet the new security requirements. And we have the FIRE out there, which is the financial new financial regulation that really calls for transparency between the data, the financial data flowing across systems.
So when should contracting teams in the Air Force expect to start using ConIT to generate their procurement instruments?
Actually, we have 8 sites. We called them, we call them the early operational capability sites that are already using ConIT. We began deploying those EOC sites in May, and went from May through the end of June for the final deployments of those. They used those for this last fiscal year execution, and so it was a great way to see how the system was used live. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of lessons learned from that. We also, expectedly, we had to handle quite a few bugs, and nothing is perfect coming out the door. Right. So they were great test beds. They did a great job. The AFMC site, AFMETCAL, was the first one to deploy in May. First, our AFMC site, and actually the first one to deploy in the Air Force. Now for the fall, we use those lessons learned to finalize a deployment for the rest of the Air Force. And so we will begin those deployments starting the week of 15 October. The AFMC's first site, which is at Rome, the RAKO folks, they will begin deploying the week of 22nd of October. After that point, For AFMC, we have Eglin is planning to go the week of 12 November. Hanscom's scheduled to go the week of 3 December. Edwards is scheduled to go the week of 3 December. We have 3 sites planning to go the week of 10 December, and that would be Tinker, Robbins, and Wright-Patterson. And we finally have Hill that is planning to deploy the week of 17 December. So, we've got, it's going to be a very intense next few months as we deploy worldwide. But, we hope with all the lessons learned and that we will be quite successful.
Well, and it's exciting because, like you said, it's been a long time coming. And as you know, we talked about in your last answer, as far as being data driven and making sure that we have things in place to accurately collect the data, so we can make those data driven decisions is important. So, and kind of just to add something else to that is also making sure the data that we input is accurate helps with those data driven decisions. So that goes to the folks out there in the field that are going to be entering that data, and it's definitely important to make sure you're putting in accurate information, so that way when it feeds all the way through, we can use this ConIT system to accurately collect the data, so that way we can use it and leaders can make good decisions off that information.
Yeah, exactly.
So what resources or training are out there to support this contracting modernization effort?
So as part of the overall the development of the system, we have a training team, and we've had SAF AQCI has worked the organizational change management pieces of this, along with help from the MAGCOMs. There are several resources out there that people can go and learn more about what we're doing and what ConIT is all about. SAF AQCI has a SharePoint site. You can get to that site 2 ways. You can go to Contracting Central and go to the Contracting Modernization website from that, or you can go directly to the Contracting Modernization ConIT SharePoint site. Just go there. That site contains a lot of very useful information. It has a frequently asked questions tab. We put release notes on there. So as each development sprint happens, the release notes of what the new functional capability is put on the SharePoint site. We have a lot of, I'd say at least 40 or so videos on there that are basically how-to snippets. So if you wanted to go and learn how do I create a CLIN structure in ConIT, there's a video for that. How do I upload clauses into ConIT, there's a video for that.
That's awesome.
So those are developed because, quite frankly, it was the thought that as users are in the system, one of the best ways, instead of having to get out and look something up, they could access the videos and if they run into issues. The other thing out there that is available is on ADLS, which is our learning, the DoD Learning Central, has a ConIT training module for that. And it's a good just walkthrough of what this system is, so people can, again, get familiar what's out there. And, if they've not deployed, certainly get familiar with, okay, this is what's coming, and I can get used to it. The other big resource piece is what we've set up as far as site-by-site training. Each site that will be deployed has a site training lead, both a site lead and a site training lead, and they have been establishing training plans and setting up a training environment, training efforts for their users at their site. So the thought is that as we get closer to deployment dates for any particular site, they will have trained their users and done all that prep work, so gives their users a chance to get hands on the system, right, and helps prep them. The last thing we did as far as training, which we've done probably over the last year and a half, is hold familiarization events, where we've hosted those mainly at DAU, but we've brought in users all across the Air Force to get their hands on the keyboard, so to speak, and give us their feedback. So through all these efforts, it's been a fairly robust area, that there is training out there. There's things that people can look at, right, and videos if they want to see it.
Great. And just for the folks listening out there, I will put in the show notes the link for the ConIT SharePoint site and for the ADLS training. So take a look for that out in the show notes. So Dan, are there capabilities that are not in the version of ConIT that is being rolled out that are planned for the future?
Yes. The development we are using is the agile development process. So what that means is we have a baseline, I will call it, set of capabilities that the EOC sites had. We've added some capabilities since then to get ready for our October deployment. But through the agile process, which is, essentially it just means updates that recur quite frequently. More or less every 4 weeks, users are seeing new capability in the system. Okay. And that's part of that development process of myself and others going out to the development team and guiding them through what new functionality they want. Okay. So we have a backlog of functionality that we want to get into the system during this first rollout for the operational contracting users. Longer term, we have several, I'll call them blocks of capability, that we plan on developing and releasing over the next several years. For instance, we will focus after this deployment, we'll begin focusing on users within the weapons systems community, space, R&D, and the logistics contracting environment. They all have unique needs, and those will be translated into functional requirements that in turn we'll gather those and then begin sitting down and going through the development. Beyond those initial capabilities, we also have requirements for such things as records management or electronic contract filing capability. We have requirements for more robust reporting and capability of I guess, more robust reporting, and then more contract administration closeout type of efforts. So those are all kind of blocks in general of things that we have planned to roll out over the next few years.
Okay. So we'll have to do a follow-up podcast on when those get rolled out. I'm sure people will be excited to hear about that. Yes. So what's your advice to contracting units that will be implementing ConIT?
So for those sites that are in this first deployment, beginning in October, first of all, the most important thing would be go and attend one of those training events that your training leads have set up. That, again, what we've found through the familiarization event is once people get hands on the system and be able to create things in the system, obviously that is a great training tool. So that's the first thing I would advise. Also, the things I've mentioned earlier, go to the website, the SharePoint site. We have a lot of information there to go through. If you're not sure of something, certainly you can ask questions to your local site leads, or you can call your local, your MAJCOM FRB rep. Myself is for AFMC, but again, each MAJCOM has an FRB rep. And you can also, if you want to, AQCI is a great, focus for getting questions in and answering those questions. For those sites that say you're in the weapon system environment, or you're doing logistics contracting, and that will be coming, we will be working towards that. But if you just wanted to know, hey, what is this thing? Right. Again, the SharePoint site's a great place. You can go to ADLS and take the training to give you kind of a walkthrough of what the system is. So those avenues are there for you.
Great. Is there a help desk available if users have questions or problems with ConIT?
Yes, there's a help desk established at Gunter. And what especially users with this first rollout for the operational contracting sites will find is we've tried to structure a similar process in getting help desk tickets issued if you have system problems. The first kind of line of defense, if you will, if it's a functional issue and it's more of a contracting question than a system problem, is obviously consult locally with your contracting officer or your folks locally. If it really is a system problem that's the issue, we have established, and sites are establishing actually, site super users. And they are close to what the SPS users today understand, in that the site super users can go to Gunter and request help, request a help desk ticket. So that was your first line of defense. Gunter is, of course, standing up a help desk. And then for those issues that are really system issues that are very problematic, that may cause or require some changes in software, there is an operations and support team within USDA that assist and help resolve the bugs, the system bugs that come through.
And then does ConIT allow contracting officers to electronically sign procurement instruments?
Yes, right now what ConIT does for the EOC sites is essentially have a picture of their signature, and then we'll put that on the document. What we are building towards is a true electronic signature for that.
Okay, so that might be one of the future rollouts?
That's going to be one of the future rollouts, yeah.
Okay, and then just to give folks out there listening an idea of what's been done so far as contracts awarded, how many awards to date have been made in ConIT?
Just shy of 1,600, which is pretty impressive since we've we only began the initial rollout of our early operational sites in May. But yeah, so it shows that the system is running and it's been successful in executing the mission of those 8 EOC sites.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure the contracting folks out there are excited to see the system and get it implemented so they can work more efficiently and effectively in getting their contracts awarded. And like I said, I'll put in the show notes the link to the ConIT SharePoint site and the ADLS training. And I want to thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
You're welcome.
If you have suggestions for topics or people to interview or feedback on the podcast, you can submit those at thecontractingexperience@gmail.com. I want to thank you all for listening to the Contracting Experience podcast. Until next time, keep connecting to the world around you.